Let's bring on Jesse. Hey, Jesse, how you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Look at you. Yeah, center up. There you go. I think sometimes, I don't
Yeah.
know that you guys are totally seeing what I'm seeing, but that looks great. You're up in the digital missions hat. I just realized I'm not wearing a hat. I totally meant to put on a hat, and I'm 2 hours into this 12-hour stream, and I realized I'm the awkward guy here. I don't have a head covering.
Hey, you got time. It's all right. You got
All right.
plenty of time to change that
All right.
today.
And so I've got, you don't see it, but I've got like, actually, I have my digital missionary hat up here, just like Jesse, to rep Jesse sometimes when I put it on, but it's right up there, and so it's there. But I'll get a hat at some point. Jesse, man, thanks for jumping on. We just were talking to Kit
Yeah, man.
Williams from Christ Journey, missions director over there, and really starting to
Cool.
talk about. I love the conversation. It was funny. He mentioned Ezekiel Fattori from Casa Church Miami. Jesse, do you know Ezekiel? Have you ever connected with him? Oh
I
man,
have not yet.
that would be a fun conversation. Getting
Yeah,
the four of us together, but
yeah.
um, I'm trying to figure out where to go from there. Casa Church Miami is actually the reason we're bringing on Ezekiel. He's going to be on the stream later today. Small church in Miami Beach. I say that maybe 100, 150, maybe 200 people. Not, I mean that's a big church in Miami Beach. That's
Yeah.
incredible in
That's
Miami
incredible,
Beach.
Miami Beach. Yeah.
That being said, dude is like massively impacting in the Latin and South America. And it is at the point of like dozens of micro locations popping up in different countries and around Latin and South America. And he's trying to figure out what discipleship it looks like digitally, scalably. And that's some of the conversation we're going to get into moving forward with that. But we've been talking about here the idea of a physical church scaling digital, utilizing digital, discipleship, evangelism. And I know, Jesse, that's kind of your heart here a little bit. So we're going to get into that, but I've been rude here at the beginning, setting it all up. Jesse, why don't you talk a little bit about yourself? And, you founded Digital Missions Project, which is a really cool initiative as well. So maybe start up by introducing yourself a little bit.
Sure. Well, good morning. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be with you, Jeff. Yeah, Digital Missions Project started about 3 years ago with this idea of how do we help local churches leverage the Google Ad Grant. It's a resource that Google's been giving out since 2003. A lot of churches are just unaware that it exists. It's not like a magic bullet. It's not a silver bullet, as they say, right? Like, it's not the one-stop solution for all your marketing needs and outreach, but it's a resource that a lot of churches are unaware of. And we started helping churches and Christian nonprofits apply for it, get it, create some ad campaigns around it. And one thing we love to say is that Digital Missions Project really is a missions first, marketing second kind of organization. It is marketing. Obviously, we're applying all the best principles of marketing, but it really is about reaching people where they're at, which is kind of the heartbeat of missions, right? Like, is you start where, someone goes to Google and they type in a question, or a keyword phrase like, a prayer for my broken marriage, right? And there's all these results that pop up. Well, what if your church had a page that gave them some hope? There was a blog post or a link to a sermon. And so leveraging the Google Ad Grant and other ad type, resources, connects people who are looking for hope, looking for truth. And so that's what we do at the Digital Missions Project. It's been great, looking to help more churches. And I love what you're doing because we're elevating the conversation of the opportunity that exists in digital to reach more people with the gospel.
Yeah. For me, even what you're doing, Jesse, is beautiful because you're using the Google Ad Grant, free money from Google, and you're helping churches and nonprofits utilize that at the connection level. Earlier you weren't on, but we were talking with Tariq, who's in the Middle East, and he's using evergreen content. He's creating content that exists in evergreen, and the idea of getting that content, tying it into the Google Ad Grant and things like that to connect with people. And then, but it's not just content based, consumer based. We want to get them into community to eventually evangelize, discipleship, share Christ, build relationships, trust, and help them discover their calling and equip them for it. And so,
That's right.
like the connection level, the ad grant's great, But it's not just connecting. We want to get them into the community, physical or digital, get them connected into a church like Christ Journey, like Casa Miami, but then through that church or through that community, start to help them find their calling. What is God calling them to do, and start to equip them towards that. And so we're talking about a couple of different churches. And Jesse, you've been with City to City, church planting organizations. You've worked with on a number of church staffs. Like, just in your mind, what would it look like for a physical church to do something like this? To have a equipping part where you're starting to equip people and mobilizing them out to be missionaries, either physically or digitally.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I think it really just starts with identifying kind of what our everyday lives look like in the context of digital, right? Like, everybody's digital today. I mean, it's funny because I was a couple months ago, I was sitting with a pastor from Los Angeles. We were like on this fly fishing trip in Montana, and we were talking digital. We were talking, how to be digital and discipleship and all this conversation. And he says, I don't want to be a TikTok dancing pastor. And for some reason, there's this idea that, like, well, if we really want to leverage digital, we got to be like a social media influencer. We got to get on camera, we got to dance, we got to entertain. But I said, man, like, when you think about the people in your church, what are some of the digital tools that they're already using? And he goes, oh, WhatsApp. Like, we're always communicating via WhatsApp. I was like, great. What if you just Sunday nights did a live Q&A on WhatsApp, for people to be able to discuss and unpack the sermon. Nobody has to come back to the church Sunday night. Everyone can do it from the comfort of their home. So I think it starts with looking at, where are your people already living digitally, and then engaging with them there, right? So when I planted a church in Orlando, it was this kind of growing, up and coming neighborhood outside of Orlando called Davenport, Four Corners. And, if I wanted to reach people, I had to go where the people were at. And people were either at the soccer league on the weekends for their kids, or they were at Starbucks, the brand new Starbucks that had opened up, right? And so that's where I go. So digitally speaking, where are your people? Join them where they're at, and begin to have those conversations. And then I think it's also a matter of, like, empowering and equipping and training and encouraging your people to be able to do that as well. And I do think that's another conversation probably, but that's a bigger conversation that needs to happen, is like, do we even have any systems or structures in place to actually train and equip our people to be disciple makers? Yeah. Now, where to be a disciple maker, like, physically, like, calling someone up and saying, hey, meet me at Starbucks so we can read the Bible together and pray, versus doing it digitally. But I think the opportunity, because of digital, is made it easier than ever to be able to do evangelism and discipleship today.
I love that.
We're without excuse. We're without excuse as a church today.
Yeah. I'm looking, John's a former church planner on the call here, and John's with Reliant, Jesse. You two should meet at some point.
We've met.
Yeah,
you met?
Totally.
Okay.
As you got out, I was like, oh, hey. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I was like,
I was about to
familiar.
say, that'd be a fun conversation. John, you're a former church planner. As you're listening to Jesse, what's vibing with you on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think church planner, there's a lot of ways to plant a church. There's a lot of ways to do things, right? So I don't want to prescribe like all these sorts of things, but the kind of church planning that I'm keen on is going to a place, saying, where's God at work, and joining in that work. And towards what Jesse's saying, it's like, you're already digital somewhere. Some part of your life, there's a few folks that are probably amongst, my wife would like to be as non-digital as she can at all times, but you're already digital somewhere. Your people are somewhere. That might be WhatsApp, it's GroupMe, it's, what is that? How do you engage those spaces, be present to those things? Because your people are there. God's at work there. You can say yes and be there. It just takes a little bit of permission giving, almost, is like what I hear Jesse saying, right? It's like, yeah, it's not that, but permission giving to be in this space and present in this space.
Yeah. That's beautiful. We're 2 hours. Go ahead. Go, Jesse.
Yeah, let me give you an example. My wife works for a gentleman who's been an entrepreneur his whole life. He's in his 80s, has a very successful catering business here in Miami. And he loves Jesus, and one of the ways he does discipleship digitally is he writes a devotional every morning at 5 a.m. and he sends it out to his email list. And that email list grows. He's got a simple web page where you can opt into the email list, and then he basically sends out this devotional every week. Now, that's one way to do digital discipleship. It's an email. It's a simple devotional email. He's in his 80s. He's not a TikTok, influencer, but he simply writes some, biblical thought out in an email and sends it out to his list. This is something everyone can do.
Yeah. And that's what you're talking about there is like for me, we would call that like a connection level. I'm sending an email. It's a one-way communication.
Sure.
80-year-old grandpa is communicating out via mass email. And that's starting to build relationships. Now if we're going to get technical, it's a shallow one-way relationship
Sure.
towards that.
Yeah.
Email is very hard as a platform. But if we could add a community to that,
Right.
where he's now feeding that into a digital community or a physical community. If he could partner with somebody else even, maybe grandpa doesn't know what WhatsApp is, but somebody could come alongside and help him like that. We're starting to build a more effective vehicle here that's not only connecting, but communicating towards the larger purpose. And that's even what we're seeing a lot of digital missionaries. It's people that, man, I'm really good at the content. I don't really I'm not that really great building community with people in that way. Well, let's get you connected. Let's get you partnered with somebody else to do that. And that's a lot of what we're trying to do at the Church Digital. By the way, I want to give props to the Experiencing God quote, Henry Blackaby. Look and see what God is doing and join him in his work. I quote that all the time. So thanks for that, John, throwing that out there. So good. I usually say that once or twice. I was planning on saying it 2 or 3 times in that stream. So you kind of covered that for me today. Good. I appreciate it. Man, Jesse, we're talking about this idea of discipleship, understanding how to do that better digitally. As we look at maybe the opportunity so there's churches like Christ Journey, there's churches like Casa Miami that are really good at that connection level. They're starting to figure out that they need a better digital community and that they need to be able to equip and mobilize. But I love actually Kit's answer earlier. He's like, we don't really know what we're doing, but we're open to knowing that we don't know what we're doing. Like we want to change. We just haven't figured it out yet as an organization. Like when you look at that, what opportunities do you see talking with other churches to not just talk about the community, but to really get into the discipleship, the community aspects of it? What are the opportunities for the physical church maybe to better understand how to really be hybrid?
Yeah, that's really good. Again, I would say it starts with talking to the people in your church and finding out where they're living digitally. So this church where I have my office, where I'm, calling in from right now, they are, they're a small church with a lot of older folks, but they have a Zoom Bible study every Thursday night. That has been a really effective way for them to get the older folks. Don't want to leave their home, Thursday night and be driving, 9:00 at night back to the house. So it's been real popular for them to jump on Zoom, and Pastor Joe gets to lead them in Bible study. And so, for them, that's what works. That's what makes the most sense. They're not going to get on Discord. If we try to download a new app on their smartphone, they're going to get super lost. But my son's church, that's in Wynwood, they're using multiple apps. They're connecting in all kinds of ways. So I think, I go back to my original answer where I think it depends on where are your people. I know earlier you had Barbara Canero on, and I love her
Archetypes.
Archetypes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Which to me is all about the personality of your church, who are your people? Some people are going to be all about Instagram. Some people are going to be all about Facebook. Some people are going to be all about Discord. You got to know your people. You got to understand, who it is that you're trying to reach. But the point is, you got to be engaging. You got to be intentional about getting in conversation with people on an ongoing basis. So you're right. It can't just be one-way conversations. It can't just be me posting something on Instagram or just sending out an email. It's how do we create opportunities for people to like communicate back and for this dialogue, you know, it's not just about me preaching. I could preach sermons and put them on YouTube and, you know, get followers and be like, look, you know, I have all these people on YouTube that follow me and I'm doing discipleship. But no, you know, and maybe you've covered this already, but like, what is actually discipleship? Discipleship, I think at the end of the day, is about helping people learn to obey and follow Jesus, right? It's really difficult to do that if you can't have conversations with people and contextualize like the message of the gospel to their everyday life. You know, if it's just about creating consumers that are, you know, eating up our content, that's that's just marketing. You're just building a brand. But to make disciples, to be the church, to make disciples, there has to be, and I think there's a, you know, in my world, like in the physical church world, like some of the pushback for digital is like this conversation around incarnational. You know, how do we do incarnational ministry, right? Jesus was incarnational. He came to be present, right? So can we do baptism digitally? Can we do communion digitally? Can we do right? These are all debatable things. And I'm not trying to debate that here, but the point being that it's like, we have to be intentional to find ways. And there's just so many ways we can do that. You know, that's why I love Jay Kranda's, you know, the book he wrote on, you know, online church is not the answer. Framework to help people figure out what will make the most sense for them in their context. You know, not like, we're not giving people a model of church planning. We're giving them a framework. A guy that plants a church in New York City is very different than how we plant churches in Miami, Atlanta, Georgia, Mobile, Alabama, you know, San Diego, California. Like, all these cities are different. Now, people, you know, in the sense, like, you know, human level, it's the same, but the context is different. So
Yeah. We're gonna have Jay on later towards the end of the stream talking about his book and some other things. And I know that book was what he wrote was a lot of the way that we, the Church Digital, are operating, and it was so good to see, you know, Jay, a personal friend, like put in paper a lot of it. Jay's the online pastor over at Saddleback, but you know, and that contextualized reason. I said this earlier. It's the reason why I don't think there'll ever be a million person church, or at least we don't work towards a million person church. The idea of trying to get a million people to agree on anything, like in 2024, 2025, we're a bifurcated society. Like we don't operate that way anymore. I tell this example all the time. Seth Godin's a marketing guy, famous here in America, written 40 some books, New York Times bestseller. And, you know, somebody asked Seth Godin, how do I get my message heard around the world on his podcast, Akimbo? The guy was in Turkey, ironically, asking the question to Seth, how do I get my message heard around the world? And Seth replied, a billion people don't care about anything you have to say. If you're trying to communicate in mass, no one will listen. He said, but the way to get your message heard is to craft it smaller. You know, 100 million, 10 million, 1 million, 100,000, 10,000. What Seth said is you got to communicate, craft a message specifically for someone, get that person to hear it, understand it, and get that person to tell someone else. And so the idea of getting something global isn't mass, it's actually individual, it's small, and get it to reproduce and scale. And that's, you know, how we're operating and driving through the church digital on training and equipping these digital missionaries to do this, to understand this at the individual level. And whether, you know, Tariq is doing it in his context in the Middle East, or Trizzle's doing it his way in Czech, or Utope in Africa, or you know, many of the other missionaries that are doing this globally as well as in America. What Flat Cap's doing and some others that we're working with, like there's so much opportunity to contextualize, to craft that message specifically for someone. I cannot reach the person Tariq is reaching, who's in the Middle East. I cannot reach the person that Flat Cap's reaching here in America. Now, they can. And so how can we equip them and help them to do that? That's the goal of the Church Digital. And here today, we need your help. We're trying to raise $20,000 here for Giving Tuesday to tackle projects. You can look at theChurch.digital/give for more information on the projects we're looking to fund. But really, large amounts or smaller amounts, at the end of the day, we're trying to find people to partner with us. Even if it's $20 a month, $10 a month, give us a Starbucks cup of coffee a month. Cut that back. I'm a caffeine addict. I understand. I got my Keurig right over there. I got to make some coffee here in a second. My fourth cup of the day. But if you could give us a cup of coffee, that'd be awesome. TheChurch.digital/give. Jesse, you want to say something?
Hey, I know we didn't talk about this before the call. I'm wondering, can I help incentivize some people to give to the Church.digital? I have several of these digital missionary hats. If there's a way to know like who's giving, say like in the next, I don't know, you can think about it, but I'm willing to donate some of these hats and get them shipped to people who give to the Church Digital. I don't know if you want to do, let's say I got about 20 hats that I'd be willing to give.
Okay.
So if you want to,
yeah. Is this looking? It's a little tight.
It's adjustable, man.
It's adjustable. I know. I haven't. I lost a lot of weight when I was sick, and I'm starting to gain some of it back, and so my head's a little thicker than it was last time I put this on. Yeah, let's as I'm sporting my digital missionary hat. I'm not lying. I had it up there. I feel better with my head covering now, much more relaxed. So let's do it. I don't know, 20. Hey, the next 20 donations that come in through the Church Digital, I'll flag it, keep an eye on it, and but we'll do that. The Church.digital/give towards that is beautiful. Hey, Jesse, talk to me a little bit. Well, what are we doing time-wise? We're a little over. And actually, this is an empty period. Do you have time to stick around? Do you need to go?
I am going to have
to take off, unfortunately.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Jesse.
Good to see you, John.
It's good to see you, John. Jesse, 5 minutes. Talk to me about your new website. 2 tips. Church website to make it SEO friendly, Google friendly. You look at a lot of church websites. Like, what are things that we do wrong? Let's get practical. What are things that we do wrong, and how do we do it right?
Sure. Yeah, I would say start with, this is kind of high level, a high level perspective. But when you look at your website, who is your audience? Who's it for? Most churches craft their website. They try to make it for both the outsider and the insider.
Yeah.
The insider being like church members, church attenders. And what I mean by that is, so one way we see that is it's full of upcoming events and information that they need to know about. And so they put it on their website thinking like, oh, that's people are going to go there to, our church members are going to go to our website to get the data, like the link to the potluck, to sign up for this or for that. But then they also they'll have like a, some information for like someone who happens to find their website. You are diluting the opportunity. In today's day and age, it is so easy and cheap to have 2 websites that our recommendation is that you have one site that's for your insiders, that all of the language, all of the information is very much geared towards the people who already are part of your family and your community.
Yeah.
And you have a separate website that the messaging is geared towards. And I would encourage people to look at stuff that like Donald Miller puts out. The idea being that like the messaging needs to communicate, that it's obvious. A good example is like we see churches have websites with a big image on the front of their building. That doesn't speak to me as if I'm looking for a church, I'm looking for community, I'm looking for people, like a picture of your building does nothing for me. Like, I want to know, like, don't put a fake picture that you bought on a website. Like, Like, give me an actual picture of like who actually attends your church, so that I get a sense, like you're lowering my anxiety levels, so that I know like, oh, that looks like my people, like that. Okay, I'm going to go there. So you want the messaging, you want the images, you want the way that website's designed to really speak to them. I would highly encourage churches to go check out Barbara's archetype quiz, survey, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
to really understand like who you are as a church, so that, you know, as you optimize the messaging and the branding of your website. And then I would say, okay, so that's like the physical stuff that we see on the outside. The other piece I would say from an SEO standpoint is like, there's these things like H1 tags, H2 tags, meta tags, alt tags, that when Google crawls the back end of your website, you know, the parts that we don't see, the coding part, it tells Google what your website's about. And so if you want your website to be discoverable, you're going to have to do some on-page SEO. You're going to have to optimize your site. And as a matter of fact, like, maybe I'll help incentivize some more giving here beyond just the hats. If there are any pastors of churches listening, so we do a website audit. We normally charge about $250 to do website audits. You know, for any pastors that give today, I'll do a free website audit for them, and it'll give them like a full, you know, PDF of like all the things that need to be done. The point being, making their website more discoverable, that when people, you know, Google church near me, you know, that there's a chance that you're showing up on the first page of Google.
Yeah.
Would love to help churches and pastors that way. And if it incentivizes them to, as a church, give to the Church Digital, we'd be happy to donate the website audit on your behalf.
Love
but
it.
But the other thing I would say too is, put your sermons on your website. I know what's real popular is to post, you know, like if you're streaming through YouTube and then you let your sermons live on YouTube. But here's the thing, is that if someone's watching your sermon on YouTube, they're going to be distracted by all the other videos on YouTube as well. And you really want to drive traffic to your website as much as possible. So send them to the website to watch the sermons, so that they'll watch the whole sermon. I would say transcribe your sermons. There's a lot of tools out there to help you transcribe your sermon, so that when Google crawls that page, they're not crawling the video, they're crawling the text, the transcription of the sermon, which then tells them what it's about, which then helps make your website more discoverable. So anyways, that's a lot, but those are some basic things that can be done that help.
Yeah. No, I love that. And we'll put the I mean, YouTube does have the ads, and but it's the community, and it's
Yep.
almost like it's better to look at YouTube as the community rather than as the embed. And so, how do you putting the 50? It's funny, like this is we're streaming this on YouTube, and we're the majority of the views right now on YouTube. I just checked the stats a minute ago, and so that's awesome. Excited to see that all the people watching on YouTube or watching through the website. That's fine.
Yeah.
But at the
Yeah.
end of this, nobody's going to watch a 12-hour stream on YouTube.
Sure.
The percentage of people that are going to watch that 40-minute sermon on YouTube is very low. But if we create shorts, if we create 3 or 5 minute videos that are more designed to engage on YouTube, is going to be far more effective. I know you got to go.
Yeah.
Jesse, man, I appreciate the time. You know, Jesse's on the board of directors. I think I said that with the Church Digital, and really just his passion for physical churches, for hybrid churches, understanding digital discipleship. And we'll put in the hat in the offer. We'll communicate that out and through some other methods as well. But with that incentive, always the perennial businessman. I love that. But Jesse, man, thanks for the time.
Right.
Have a great day. I know you've been feeling under the weather. Feel better, and we'll touch base soon.
All right. All right.
Thanks, man. Bye.